Good morning and welcome to Free Advice Friday. My name is Keri Barnum for New Shelves Books, and we're here for Free Advice Friday, the hour every Friday where we get together to talk about book marketing, publishing, and the business of being an author. Today, we have some questions that were emailed in, so you can always email your questions in to info@newshelves.com. We save those up and we answer them on Friday. You can watch the replay on YouTube, which is simply youtube.com/newshelvesbooks. So follow over there and subscribe. And you can join us live by coming to newshelves.com/FAF. With that, we're going to go ahead and jump into some of the questions that we've been getting this week. So the first question we're going to tackle is from Megan, and Megan had a question about where do contemporary dark fantasy readers hang out? And I think this is such an important question because, as we know, last week we spoke to Wendy H. Jones, and we were talking about social media. And one of the things we really talked about was finding a space online that you're comfortable with, but also finding out where your readers hang out and meeting them there. So Megan, I think it's really important and smart that you're trying to think of where your readers are. And for that, contemporary dark fantasy, most of your readers are going to be hanging out over on TikTok. So that is a platform I'd strongly recommend you look into. But also a lot of your readers may be, to a lesser extent, but they may also be on Instagram and then Facebook. And I'll tell you why. TikTok is just full of contemporary romance fantasy. That's just a lot of who's hanging out on TikTok. Part of that is the age demographic that tends to read that genre and the age demographic that tends to hang out on TikTok. It just kind of meshes well. So that's why know that if you're going onto TikTok, it's all fed by engagement and time. And it's also fed by consistency. So if you want to engage on TikTok, you're really going to have to commit to doing a video a day for at least a month. And you can always create those ahead of time and release them slowly, but you will need to pay some attention to that if that's where you want to hang out. Now, Instagram also catches some of your audience. What's nice about Instagram is that if you're already on TikTok and creating videos, you can just repost those on Instagram as reels and, try to get the same audience there. Facebook is a little bit of one that might throw people for a loop because Facebook tends to have a slightly older demographic that is not as likely to be reading dark contemporary fantasy. However, here's the thing. Facebook is still one of the most active places for readers in general, for reader groups. It's one of the easiest places for an ongoing conversation to get recommendations from a group setting. And so that is why you will still find some of your readers on Facebook. Now, that's not to say I think you need to spend a ton of time on Facebook. But once again, if you're already creating videos or content for TikTok or Instagram, repost it over on Facebook. Use that content to the max extent so that you can capture your audience everywhere. But for sure, I would be spending quite a bit of time over on TikTok if I were you. Let's see, Pat's question. In a recent Brian Cohen webinar, he recommended only running Amazon ads to the first book of your series. I have a picture book series. Should I do this and turn off ads to the second and third book and throw all the pertinent keywords for all the books to the first book? So that's a really great question, Pat. And my answer, as often happens, is it depends on your book. So if you have a series, let's say a mystery series, and it's, 3 books, and you typically read books in order. We've heard me say before that, of course, you can read books out of order in a numbered series, but only monsters do that because who wants to jump into the middle of a story? So I do think that if you have a series in the sense of a sequential series that is fiction, you typically are only going to run ads to the first book in the series. Now, if you have a nonfiction series and they really need the first book as the staple and the other books are optional, same thing. However, most of the time when running a nonfiction series, a lot of times those are interconnected books, like on the same topic, but not necessarily dependent on each other. So in that case, I will actually say, if you only have money for ads for one book, pick your most popular book and run ads there. But if you have a nonfiction series that's interconnected, but not necessarily dependent on each other, you may choose to run ads on every single book. And the same is for children's books. So for a children's book series, I do think you should have ads for the first book, because the first book is going to introduce your characters. They are going to really pull it in. So for a children's book series, here's where it gets a little bit dependent on your writing. If your children's book series is the same character throughout, and you introduce them in the first book, and the other books kind of rely on you knowing that first book story and the character, then yep, only do your ads on the first book in series. That will be the most worth it for you. If, however, you have a series on animals, but there's different animals in every book, that's not necessarily true. So then I would pick your strongest one or strongest few books and run ads there. The other thing that I will say as far as running ads, I've been at this at a long time for series. I have some authors who will kick out a series really quickly, and they keep their audience long enough that they can just run ads to the first book in series. However, I've also worked with authors who have a series that comes out slowly, one a year, or they've been at this series for 10 years and they've got 15 books. Sometimes when a new book comes out, it makes sense to run ads that are actually defensive ads, meaning they're targeting your name, your brand, your series, and they are ads that actually target the second, third, fourth book in series. Because what can happen is that you may have someone who's already read your book, who's already been interested in your book, loved it, but they didn't follow and they don't know your new book came out. So sometimes we can use ads in a way that brings old readers back to the newest book in the series. I'm actually doing that very effectively right now. I have a young adult author whose their series came out like 10 years ago. It was a long time ago. It was very popular 10 years ago. And now that this new book is coming out, what we're finding is a lot of those readers have lost touch and they don't know about the series anymore. So while we are running ads to gather new readers and focusing just on that first book and the new book, we're also running ads that target the older books, defensive ads, using that author's own keywords as ad fodder and as keywords, because that is what's drawing in the old readership that doesn't necessarily know about this new series. So I think that the advice Brian gave as a pat answer is strong, but I do think that you have to know your own series and dig a little bit deeper into what your needs are, what your goals are, and what your series is. So hopefully those kind of things in that thought process gives you something to think about. So now you've got some more clarity or some things to ask yourself about whether or not you should be running ads just for the first book in your series, or if you should perhaps have more than one ad or different, ads for different books. Let's see. I just released the audiobook version of my debut book, Deep Waters, from She Writes Press. I'm wondering if you have advice on the best way to promote an audiobook published 4 months after the print version through Findaway Voices. Beth, I love this because their audiobooks are growing. I mean, year over year, audiobooks are growing and trending. And so I absolutely love that. So we are starting to see, as audiobooks grow, that the opportunity for marketing for these books is starting to become more available, because a couple of years ago, marketing an audiobook, you had social media, and that was about it, or your mailing list. It was really limited, right? So now what we're seeing is that there's this opportunity to market audiobooks in new and different ways. So the first one I'll say is that if you're on Findaway Voices, I strongly recommend you look into Chirp Audiobooks. Now, Chirp Books is a platform that sells books, and your book, because it's listed on Findaway Voices, will be available for sale on Chirp Books. However, Chirp Books is also a platform that offers deeply discounted audiobooks. It is, in fact, the sister company or sister site to BookBub. And BookBub, of course, is the very well-known ebook discount promotion site. So if you go into your BookBub online author profile, there is a tab that talks about Chirp books or Chirp audiobooks, and you can submit your audiobook for a discount deal. Now, what's so fabulous about this at the moment is there is currently no charge to you when you run a Chirp Books promotion. You do have to submit for it and still get approved. You have to get that actually chosen when you submit it. But if they accept your Chirp Books for a discount deal, and it has to be $4.99 or less, they will promote it out to a really big list of listeners. And what's so fantastic about that is that it's getting you new listeners, readers, and drawing people in. This is especially if you have a series, once again, putting your first book in series available for a Chirp deal, and then getting that overflow as people love the series and start listening to other books is helpful. I know that's not where you're at, Beth Ann, but I think that's something that could definitely help. But so a Chirp book deal, you don't get charged up front. They do take, I think it's 10% of your royalties. You earn 10% less royalties when you do that. And of course, you're discounting your book. However, I will say the exposure that clients I work with have gotten, the sales they've gotten have been phenomenal. I have a client right now who had a Chirp audiobook deal running for October. Last time I checked sales with them was over a week ago. It's almost been 2 weeks, but that Chirp audiobook deal had only been live for a week, and they had already sold over 500 copies of their book. So there's a huge exposure. There's so many, they've got so many reviews already, and it's building up. So I strongly recommend you look into a Chirp book deal. The other thing that I've just heard about that I'm kind of excited about is we often talk about Goodreads giveaways as a way to get new people interested in your book. And I still recommend Goodreads giveaways. However, Goodreads giveaways are limited to print and ebook editions. But I've just heard that Storygraph, which is very similar to Goodreads, the idea is still to get book recommendations, to track your books, to leave reviews. And I've just heard that Storygraph allows you to do audiobook giveaways. So I think this could be a really great opportunity for audiobook authors to get more people seeing their book and interested in their book. I'm going to drop the link for Storygraph on the chat so that you can access that. So I think that that is just a fantastic opportunity. There are also awards that you can submit your audiobook for. So if you've got an audiobook, I recommend you go research the awards that you can submit your book, your audiobook to specifically. If you need help with that, Book Award Pro is a site that has a free option where it can help research awards for you. So you may do that. You can use the good old Google and different things like that. But getting awards can be a way to get yourself out there. And then promoting on social media is also a really great way. Doing little audio clips of your narrator, tagging your narrator and praising them in social media can be a way, because that also makes them look good. They may like it and share it and expand your reach that way. To a lesser extent, we can't run ads for audiobooks on things like Amazon yet. It's just not available. But what we can do is we can run ads on Amazon for our ebook or our paperback, which will bring people to our book listing on Amazon, where the Audible will also be listed. So you may run some Amazon ads, but specifically use some keywords that are focused more on audiobook. So Audible, audiobook, book on tape. I know we don't actually have book on tape anymore, but people still search that, believe it or not. So those are just some of the ways that you can drive traffic to your audiobook to help lift it up, in addition to marketing your paperback, your ebook, and every other version you have. So that's where I'd start. There's some ideas to get you started and get going. As far as Storygraph, and does it lean more towards fiction or nonfiction, Cheryl? I'm not sure. I've been aware of Storygraph for some time, but I've never actually used it myself. I just had a client of mine yesterday said they'd used it and it was fantastic. So it was one of those things, you guys know, so many sites come up saying that they're going to be like Goodreads, that they're going to be just as awesome. And then they kind of fizzle out, or they're not really populated by readers, they're populated by authors. But it seems like Storygraph might actually make it. So I am not well versed enough in it to know who hangs out there the most, but I do think it's worth taking the time to look into. Glad that helped, Beth Ann. All right. Yes, and Storycraft may be mostly fiction, Cheryl's saying, and I think that may be true. I will say that a lot of reader sites are mostly fiction. Even Goodreads, they have nonfiction, but there's a lot more people talking about the fiction than the nonfiction. And I think that is a trend that we see almost everywhere outside of business circles. Doesn't mean people don't read nonfiction, but they do tend to read nonfiction a little bit more slowly than fiction readers read fiction. Kate, your question about who records Chirp Books. So Chirp Books is just a sales site. It is not a place where you record books. So if your book is available, if you have already gotten your book narrated and you've got it up on Findaway Voices, which is a distributor for audiobooks, if you've got it up there, they will send it to Chirp Books and Chirp Books will then sell the book, but they don't actually record books on Chirp. Let's see. A recent Ingram Spark representative talked about a library discount less than the 55% discount you've recommended. I've never heard of such a discount on Ingram Spark. Have you? I've not heard about the opportunity to offer different discounts, not through Ingram Spark anyway. Sometimes when you are working directly with a distributor like Ingram or Baker and Taylor, you have the options to set discounts differently for certain retailers in certain spaces. However, I've not heard of that on Ingram Spark. So if that is available, it's new. However, I will say I was just in the Ingram Spark dashboard uploading a book 2 days ago, and I didn't see that option. Now, what they may have been saying is that libraries don't necessarily require a 55% discount on Ingram Spark. So we know, I think we did the POD math, I think it was last week. I don't know, days go by and I don't even know. But if we talk about POD math and Ingram Spark and where all the discounts go, if we set a 55% discount at Ingram Spark, what happens is Ingram Spark prints the book. They get paid for the printing. The 55% discount then goes to Ingram Wholesale, which is a different company, same name, different company. So Ingram Wholesale then keeps 15% for their job of listing your book and making it available through the wholesale system, which means that a 40% discount is then passed on to the book retailers. And that's required for most bookstores. It's called a trade discount or a 40% discount because it's what's expected in the trade market. So that is where the 55% discount comes in. However, libraries are not in the business of resale for profit. So if they really want a book, having a lower discount than trade, having a discount that's not 40%, maybe it's 25%, they will often still buy a book. So you may, as an author, decide to set your discount on Ingram Spark at 40%, which then again, Ingram takes their 15%, which leaves the person buying from Ingram Wholesale a 25% discount. Now, most retail stores and bookstores are not going to go for that. It's just not going to happen. But for some libraries or places that are not in resale for profit, sometimes schools, they will take that lower discount and they don't mind. They don't mind that they're not getting a full trade discount. So maybe that's what they were talking about, but I'm not quite sure. Like I said, at the moment, I don't know of an option through Ingram Spark to set a library discount that's different from every other price, unless we're talking about ebooks. Ebooks are a whole different game on Ingram Spark, and there is library pricing available, which isn't necessarily a discount, but it's library pricing. So I'm not quite sure what they were talking about, but that's an overview of what I know about it. Hopefully that helps. We have a new children's book. Is there a best way to get into libraries? Yep. So if you have a children's book, Congratulations, by the way. The other thing I would say is, as far as getting into libraries, you really need to know how the library system works. And part of that is your book available where librarians buy books? So librarians prefer to buy books most of the time from Baker and Taylor. However, some librarians will also buy from Ingram Wholesale, and about a third of libraries will buy directly from Amazon. So you have to make sure your book is available where they want to buy it, but also your print book. So in your case, a children's book, most of your sales are going to be print. So that's the most important. If your children's book is middle grade and up, then you would want to consider your digital assets as well. Is your ebook or your audiobook available from Overdrive? Because Overdrive is where libraries will buy books or license books to put in their digital systems for checkout. So if you've got an older book, that's where you would want to look. But for children's books, it's all about pitching your book, why it's different, why it stands out. And it's also making sure it's available for sale where they can easily find it. Because if you tell them about a book, you need to include your ISBN, you need to include your price, and you need to include why you think it'd be a great fit for the library. Because their job is to bring the community in and to serve the community. Your job as an author is to tell them how your book helps them do that. So if you can say, you know, my new picture alphabet book is bilingual, and I know that your community does have, you know, a lot of diversification with multiple languages, I think this would be a great fit. Okay, that's a selling point. But telling them not just, hey, I have a new book and I want you to carry it, but I have a new book, here's how it's going to serve you. And I will also say for libraries, it's a lot of outreach. It is emailing, it is contacting them, giving them the sales information, and repeat. There are approximately 116,000 libraries in the US alone. About 97,000 of those are school libraries. So you have tons of opportunity, but you just have to start pitching them. I do recommend you start close to home. So you can say, I'm a local author, I'm part of the community, starting local. And then if you have any connections, or the book has connections to certain spaces. So for example, if your book's set in Colorado, well, then go to the Colorado libraries. And so there's different opportunities there. Now I could go on and on and on about how to pitch to libraries. But in fact, I've already done that. I have a YouTube video where I teach about libraries and how to work with libraries. It's about, I think it's 15 minutes long. I'm gonna drop the link here in our chat. It's on YouTube, it's absolutely free. If you like it, give it a like and a subscribe, that'd be awesome. But the real thing is that it's available there. Because there's so much we could talk about, but I don't want to get stuck. I don't want to get stuck on libraries for anyone who maybe isn't at that point. So go check it out. For anyone who's maybe watching on Facebook or is watching the replay, go to our YouTube channel, New Shelves Books, and just search library and you'll see it pop up right there. It's available. Libraries for authors and publishers. And the first resource I mentioned, Jennifer, was Baker and Taylor. Baker and Taylor is owned by Follett. And that is where most libraries and schools will prefer to order from. So that's probably their top choice. I love libraries. They just make me happy. And I also feel like a criminal. If I ever turn in a late book, like my daughter had a book out and I thought she'd returned it and she hadn't, and I get an email, and I felt like a criminal when I realized we had a book out with late fees. That's how terrible I am. I'm such a rule follower sometimes. Do you wait a while to attack the library market so you don't undermine straight up sales? Actually, Bob, no, because here's the thing. While some people who are checking out books at the library aren't going to go buy the book, the truth is that people who refuse to buy a new book, if it's in the library and there's a long wait list and they're just going to wait, they probably were not going to go buy the book anyway. Those are people who typically are on income restrictions, people who really can't afford to just go out and buy a book. So they're going to wait for it to get in the library, or they may even ask for your book to show up in the library. So no, I wouldn't wait. I would make it available. But not only that, you get your book in a library, especially if it can get featured in the front as a new release or as, it's a holiday book. So it's being there. It is actually marketing for you, because what happens sometimes is someone will go, oh, this is a really good book, but I need more time to read it. I'll just order it. Or, wow, I was paging through this book and it's hilarious. I need to get that for dad for Christmas. So sometimes actually just having your book on a library shelf is the marketing you need, not only to sell that book, but to get a super fan that then follows you and buys your other books. So I would not wait. I would pitch your book starting about a month prior. If you want to do events, you need to go earlier, but about a month prior to your book coming out is a great time to start reaching out to libraries to let them know your book will be available. Hopefully by then it's on pre-sale, at least on Ingram. But do not wait. Get to them early, get to them often, because they will also help promote your book. And again, if I go to check out a book at a library and I see I'm like 50th on the wait list, I'm just going to go buy it. But I would be able to buy it anyway. There have been times in our lives where we were on one income with kids and there was no way I could just go buy a book. I would sit on that library waiting list for a year if I had to get that book. So I don't think that we are losing sales with libraries. I think what we're doing is we're including more readers who then can give us reviews, recommendations. And again, we can really build up fans and it markets for us. Yeah. Let's see. So that is there, Heather. Let's see. How do you get your Ingram book into Baker and Taylor? So here's the thing. Baker and Taylor does not have a print on demand system. So Baker and Taylor, you typically have to work with a distributor. They do accept some books directly. However, it is very, very few. You have to have proof of demand and proof of sales. That is large. I mean, we're talking about thousands and thousands of copies in a year. So you can get direct with Baker and Taylor. However, that doesn't happen often. More often you have to go through a distributor, and of course then you pay the distributor. The other option is that if you're on something like Draft to Digital for your ebooks, or if you're on Findaway Voices for your audiobooks, they actually work with the digital realm of Baker and Taylor. So you can get your ebook and Baker and Taylor ebooks through Draft to Digital, and then you can promote your book to libraries as being available through Baker and Taylor for the ebooks. So there are some workarounds, there are some options, but Baker and Taylor is something that usually happens for larger publishers or publishers going offset print with the distributor. It is one of those things in print on demand and indie publishing that we learn to work with to the best of our ability, but sometimes it's just not always available to us. So we work around it and we say, okay, well, my book's available on Overdrive or different things. And if a librarian really wants your book, if it's a popular book, if their patrons are asking for it, they're going to order it, whether it has to be from Amazon, Baker and Taylor, or, wherever it is, they're typically going to order it if it's available. So don't let that hold you back, even if you can't get into Baker and Taylor. Yes. All right. Yes, so New Shelves does have library mailings. We do still do those. And the library mailings are where we craft a listing for you. We send it out to, it's over 7,000 libraries in the US. And the question from Eileen was, when we do that, does it include both school and public libraries? And yes, the New Shelves library mailing list has a range. We have public libraries, we have some school libraries, and we also have some private libraries or government libraries as well. I would say most of it's public libraries, but at least a third is school libraries. So we do have that available, and I will drop the link for anyone who's interested in the New Shelves library mailing. We do those about quarterly. We send them out and we present them to our librarian contacts. Your book does have to be available in Ingram to be in this listing. It can't just be on Amazon, it has to be in Ingram as well. And then you've got those opportunities, and it's $199. So pretty affordable. And I dropped the link for anyone who's looking for that if you're on the chat here. Let's see. Quick follow-up question. If the second book in a series is more popular and sells better, should I run Amazon ads to that book instead? I would be running, if that's the case, I would be running ads to the second book and the first book. Almost always, I will say, run ads to your bestseller. No matter where it is in your series, run ads to your bestseller, because if it's working, magnify that. If you've got the most reviews, magnify that. And I strongly recommend that. And going back to audiobooks, we had talked about audiobooks, and one of the things I don't think we've talked about here yet is that Spotify is shaking it up again. So we know that Spotify bought Findaway Voices. Gosh, I think it was last December. It's been almost a whole year. And so Spotify bought Findaway Voices, which is the audiobook distributor publishing platform. And now Spotify has been working towards trying to convert. The whole idea with Spotify is that they had a lot of listeners, people who are listening to music, podcasts, people who are listening to content all the time. And their idea was to try to tap into those listeners to get them to listen to audiobooks, which was part of the, the buyout and the partnership with Findaway Voices. And Spotify is still making moves on that. So Spotify just released, not in the US yet, it's in the UK, but for Spotify members, people who have a monthly membership, those members now have access to listen to certain audiobooks, and they get 15 hours for free with their membership. So 15 hours, not a single book. Like Audible, you get a credit, you get a book. With Spotify, they're doing 15 hours for audiobooks free with your membership. And they're testing this out. So what happens, of course, is that this creates a thing with publishers, of course, where publishers are then getting paid a certain amount per hour. I'm not sure how the contracts have worked out there. I'm not sure they're even public. But so they're getting paid through subscription. And then what they're doing is that once the listener, the Spotify member, has reached 15 hours, they have the option of topping off or adding more hours for that month. And I think it comes in 10 hours, 10-hour groups. So if I listen to 15 hours of audiobooks, but I've got an audiobook that's still got 5 hours left, I could top off and pay for 10 more hours. So this is a different model than we've seen in audiobooks, since audiobooks have, been either a flat fee or it's been a subscription for one audiobook with one title. So this is new. Spotify's just trying it out. It's released in the UK. I believe this will come to the US in the next couple of months. They said winter. I'm betting it's going to be right around the first of the year, maybe a little bit earlier in December. But that's kind of new in Spotify, and what they're doing and what they're testing is if they can get their subscribers to start consuming audiobooks more on their platform through their subscription model. Because right now, because of their fights with Apple, what has happened is that you cannot buy any audiobooks directly through the Spotify app, because if you do that, Apple wants their cut, and Spotify said, we're not paying you to sell audiobooks on our own platform. So now you have to go on the website to buy an audiobook from Spotify. And what they're trying to do is to try to get a workaround from paying Apple, but by topping off their credits through the subscription model. I don't know how it'll work. I think it's very exciting. I think this has been the whole idea, is harnessing more audiobook listeners from a listening app. And so we'll see if it works or not. Like I said, it just rolled out in the UK, and I'm excited to see how that kind of continues and works throughout the next couple of months. In the UK and then again in the US. I actually have a Spotify membership. So I've already told my husband, I'm like, look, once it comes out, you're going to have to be my tester and tell me how easy it is to use or not use, depending. So that is in audio and audiobook news. I had another question. This one is from Walt. So the question: I'm having an issue with representing a prequel ebook with retailers. For my series, I have a book that is listed as book 1 of the series and a prequel that is listed as book 0 of the series, because that's how it's listed in Bowker. Now, the question is if I upload my book And I want it to show on sales sites. So we want this to show as part of a series on sales sites. Let's say Amazon. And if we want it to show up on Amazon or on Apple or something as part of the series, but it's not showing up as book 0, the suggestion has been to list the book as 0.5. But Walt's question is, if I list it as 0.5 in a sales site like Amazon or on Draft to Digital, but I do not list it that way in Bowker, will it mess up my metadata? And the good news, Walt, is no, it actually will not. So what it will do is when you do a 0.5, it's just mostly going to show on that retail site. It'll make it easier for readers to find you. And I will say that that is how most, excuse me, that is how most series work, is that if you have a prequel, if you have a novella, they typically are listed as 0.5. So if it's a prequel, it is 0.5. If you have a short story between book 1 and book 2, it's listed as 1.5. So I would absolutely do that on retailer sites. I do not believe it will mess up your metadata. It will not mess up Bowker. I just think it will increase your user experience and make it easier for readers to find you. So I would go about it that way, absolutely, and not worry too much about the rest of it there. All right. I know there was another question. Let me find it. Here we go. Now this was a question. Is my editor's designed a book cover reveal image for me to use until my book cover is actually ready to go, because I don't have the official cover art yet. However, the book cover features a face of a main character, but my book is inspired by true events, and an entertainment lawyer told me not to use an image on the cover if it resembles the real person. I'm not sure if it does. So I'm asking if I should or could use this teaser my editor made that has a person on the cover, or if I should wait and not do that. So my advice would be, go with the lawyer. If your lawyer has said not to use characters on your book cover because you're tied into real events and it could be a liability, I would not use it in a teaser. I would not use it in a marketing. I would just steer clear. Now, I'm not a lawyer and I can't advise you of this, but I will say that if you do have a lawyer that's advised you to stay away from that, I would go with their advice and trust that they probably gave it to you for a reason. So in that case, if you don't have your cover art yet and you're doing a teaser, I would wait. Honestly, I'm not sure why you would do a cover reveal when you don't actually have your final cover art. So I would wait until you have your final cover art before you do a cover reveal. And I would absolutely positively stay away from any real person images if that is something an entertainment lawyer has warned you of. In some of these cases, I just think it's better safe than sorry. You really don't want to get in a legal battle. I don't anyway. I guess it's your choice if you're publishing, but I would probably steer clear. Yes, Caroline. So if your audiobooks are on Findaway Voices, then they are also listed on Spotify. That is correct. Spotify is one of the places that Findaway Voices will distribute your audiobook to. Let's see. I think I had another email. Let me find it. All right. Nan was asking about how to get a barcode for her book covers. So if you've been following New Shelves or Free Advice Friday for any extended amount of time, you know that I have talked about that if you want your book in retail stores, if you want it into bookstores, retail stores, Barnes and Noble, it is often a requirement that your book have a price-specific barcode, which means that you have a barcode that has your price directly integrated into it. And yes, I do recommend that you do that. And Nan's question was, there are some places that have a yearly fee to create barcodes, and did I recommend any over the other? Here's the thing. You can make your own price barcode for free. So it's really not hard to do. You can use the Ingram Spark template generator to create a template that has a price specific barcode cut out that barcode and slap it on your book cover. So this is something you can do for free. It takes less than 10 minutes. And I do have a video up on YouTube. So I'm going to drop the link to that video on YouTube. Your book designer may also be able to generate a barcode for you. So that's an option as well. But let's say you have a book cover and it's got a price specific barcode, but now you need to change your price. You don't want to go back to your book designer because they're going to charge you $50, which is fair. I mean, if you're asking them to do work, that's fair. If you don't want to do that, you can go create your own price barcode and you can add it to your book cover file, to the PDF file for your printing needs. So there are options out there. Absolutely. If you're working with a designer, asking them to do it for you is a smart choice. If you're in the beginning stages, if you don't have a designer and you're doing it yourself, or if you're no longer in touch with your designer and you need to update, doing it this way is free. It's easy. There's no subscription required or anything like that. So I would recommend that. Let's see. What do you think of using the A/B testing strategy to compare and test two ads and Facebook ads as described by Matthew J. Holmes? I think testing different ads can be very helpful. Doing A/B testing just means you're essentially setting ads the same, but you are changing one aspect. So you might have the same image in your ads, but one has one set of marketing copy and one has a different set of marketing copy. You might have the same image, the same marketing copy, but you're testing out different audiences, that kind of thing. And I think it's smart. I think if you are trying to find your audience and what works best, it can be helpful. Now, I will say that A/B testing can be helpful to refine an audience. But if you're just trying to test ads in general, like if you're just jumping in and you just want to test an ad, I personally would start with one pretty simple ad, just get your feet wet, see how it works. And then from there, start refining out for A/B testing. So for me, that's kind of a step two. I find that going straight into A/B testing without kind of getting the lay of the land or figuring out ads at all first can be too overwhelming and too much. And I find that some authors have a hard time reading the data, because you may do an A/B test with two different audiences and maybe you get more clicks on test B, but you spent no money on test A. Like there are different things you need to look at as far as so many things. So as far as looking at the impressions, the clicks, the cost per click, did they convert into a sale? So I think A/B testing is fantastic, but I do think that sometimes starting with a pretty simple ad, your first go around for that book or your first go around for ads may be more accessible, and then go into A/B testing once you've got more of an idea what works for your book and you know what kind of audiences might respond. Let's see. Please remind us of the excuse me. Please remind us of the company that replaced Donahue Group for providing a library catalog of our books. Look, now I'm all froggy. The new company is, I'm blanking out completely. Hang on, I'm going to think of it. It's going to come to me. I want to say Cardinal, but that's a distribution company. Hang on. I even have it listed out. They just emailed an update in their form too. Let's see. Cassidy. Thank you. David, you're the best. Cassidy is the company. I was trying to look it up on the website. It's a C. I was close. Cardinal, Cassidy. So yes, Cassidy is the company I do currently recommend and who I use for my library cataloging blocks. And that, of course, is where you pay a library cataloging service to catalog your book for libraries, so that when a library buys your book, they can put it straight in their catalog and get it on the shelf. They don't have to catalog it for you. So this is a value added service for libraries that helps them have less work and makes your book less work for them when they want to buy it and put it on their shelf. So it can be a selling point. And it also gets your book into the cataloging services. So it will show up in places like WorldCat, and WorldCat is where a lot of libraries catalog books. You can track your book and see if it's being carried in libraries and different things like that. So a neat feature to have, and definitely a value added point. Yeah, Beth Ann, I think there's so much good advice in ads. And I think that if you're ready to go advanced, A/B testing, or even Amazon ads, when we're talking about setting up multiple ads and different things, I think it can be really good advice and it works for some people. But I do think that trying to jump in it right away can just be overwhelming. Sometimes starting small and simple and gathering ad data for a little bit first, just so you know how to read it and understand it. And again, just getting your feet wet a little bit can be the best long-term option, because that allows you to jump in without spending so much money, number one, right off the bat, but also so you can get used to it. Because when you are, even if you're running A/B tests and you're doing $50 per ad, well, that's $100 that could be gone in a week. So this gives you the opportunity to kind of test out and learn the systems before you dump too much money into it. So is there a clever way to find and connect with book clubs? I've had people use different programs like online book club and different things like that with varied amounts of success, or knowing whether it was successful or not. I think the best way is to find libraries and bookstores that have book clubs, doing Google searches for book clubs, asking your readers and asking people online if they are a part of a book club that you could, pitch to, or that you might have your book read by. So I think that's one of the things that I would try as far as book clubs. Book boxes can be, depending on your book, and this is mostly, I would say, mostly fiction does some book boxes that can do very well, but most of it is just good old research. And a lot of book clubs, again, know that they are connected to bookstores and libraries, so that can be a really great place to find book clubs. Yes, a lot of bookstores have book clubs, so it can be a great way to start. In some more industry news, this has kind of been hitting some people this week, is Scholastic has created a separate diverse books collection for elementary school book fairs. So let me explain this. Scholastic is now, they have made a optional book group for diverse books or banned books. And essentially what it is when a school says, hey, Scholastic, we want to do a book fair. When they go to check what books they want, they can check different grades, different topics, and different things. And now what it is they have pulled out select books that we would call diverse books, but many of them have topics that have been banned in some schools and in some states. There are a lot of things surrounding those books that may be controversial. So Scholastic has pulled those out of the mainstream catalog. And now, in order to have them at your book fair, you actually have to click a box saying, I would like the diverse book box. And then they will add it, and it can be left in the catalog and will be brought to the schools for book sales. So why did they do this? And are they terrible people? Well, they're kind of at a rock and a hard place. So here's the thing, is that Scholastic, what they're trying to do is not to make it harder to find diverse books. They're not trying to exclude books. What they are trying to do is to keep a business model in which they can continue to serve schools in every state, in every area, and not get teachers and people's at the school in trouble. So if a book was banned in a certain state, in a certain school, and they then list that book for sale at a Scholastic book fair, the fear is repercussion, that teachers could be fired, that administrators could be held accountable. And so what's happening is this has made it harder for certain schools to continue with Scholastic book fairs. So Scholastic, being a business, they're a business, and what they're doing now is trying to make it so that this does not, number one, keep people from having Scholastic book fairs, but also so that people can highlight these books if they wish. So this has been very controversial because many people have seen it as Scholastic caving and not wanting to include diverse titles specifically to certain states. But Scholastic, on the other hand, again, is trying to make sure that they are not putting the jobs of schools and administrators and teachers in danger by keeping these books as a part of their normal catalog. So they've kind of separated out. It's caused a lot of drama. I would actually be very interested in what you all think about that. Does it make sense that Scholastic has pulled it out so that there can still be book fairs, including Scholastic books, in certain states or areas that have banned books, or should they hold their ground and should they just keep those Scholastic books in there no matter what? And if that means that schools won't use them, then that's what it is. I've heard arguments both ways. Again, I think Scholastic is a business, but even as a business, we have to have our morals. So I've seen it both ways. I'm always curious to see what other people think about that as well. And who knows? I don't know how it'll pan out, and if they'll keep it or not. But also, all this banned book stuff, so much of it is in courts right now. So who even knows what'll hold up and what won't hold up and what'll change in the future. So always something new happening in the publishing industry. Frankfurt Book Fair has been going on, and there's been a lot of things going on with that as well. Even with things happening around the world, there is still a lot of deals being made in Frankfurt. So that, of course, is one of the biggest translations and rights areas for books. So it's good to see that there's still a lot of deals going on there. All right, you guys, we are at 11 o'clock. I'm afraid I do have another call, so I can't stay on. If I didn't get to your question, please know you're welcome to email it to me and I'll answer it next week on Free Advice Friday. You can also certainly join us again next Friday. So thank you everyone for being here. I appreciate you. I'll be back next Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern, same time, same place. Bring your questions and we will talk then. Bye-bye. Have a great weekend.